Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So BLM Brandon honored the Martinez family's wishes and didn't show up for the funeral.
Yeah, but it took a fight to get there. I mean, on Friday night, my God, this is after they begged him. And they asked Governor Pritzker to do the same. Governor Pritzker right away said, I will not be attending. You know, I understand that their wishes. Mayor Johnson, he was defiant. He said the mayor of Chicago will attend all honors funeral services for every police officer, firefighter, or EMT who loses their life in the line of duty. And that is the mayor's honor to support the officers of the entire Chicago Police Department, especially moments of grief. So Enrique Martinez's family was held a press conference. They were going to beg him not to come. They couldn't do it. They broke down. They couldn't make it there. So they sent their friend. Here, his name is George.
Enrique Martinez's family called me up this evening and said they could not do this. They definitely do not want the mayor at any of the functions for Enrique. Plain and simple, to the point.
And Dan, you know who else showed up? Officer Yanez, who was shot, and luckily
Ella
he
French's
lived.
Partner.
Yeah, Ella French's partner.
Just honor their wishes. I mean, haven't they gone through enough?
And Edith Huesca, whose son was murdered while on the job.
The mayor, truly wants to honor the fallen officers, change the policies that put them at risk.
Well, that's the one thing he won't do.
That's sick and narcissistic. Oh, I couldn't believe it.
For more on this and other matters of public safety and local politics, pleased to be joined by Tyrone Muhammed, who's the founder of Ex-Cons for Community and Social Change. Tyrone, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me, Dan and Amy.
Well, what's your view? I mean, I guess in the interest of full disclosure, so Tyrone and I have worked together before a little bit in politics, and give us your background, the organization you founded, and what you're attempting to do in the Chicagoland area in particular.
So, I served 21 years in prison. But after watching just the systemic, the in and out, the lack of prison reform and reentry work, I said, we can't no longer depend on politicians and pastors to fix prisons and to fix this reentry and this violence, the product of violence. So while sitting in prison, we said, you know what, it's going to take us to save us. That's our motto. But then we wanted to have a real name that actually acts as an affront and that actually highlights what it is that we're doing and who we are in up front. So I believe that we can't blame a system, although I believe that there are conspiratorial plots where 100-round drums, Glock 6, cocaine, heroin, weed into our communities that we have no control over. But we don't blame that. We focus on our ability not to touch the drugs, the guns, and this is what our focus is as ex-cons, because we had a hand in the terroristic effect of violence that has plagued our community. So we wanted to be men of character and returning citizens that wanted to do the corrective measures to put forth public safety. And so ex-cons, which is a double entendre for X of everything negative that we've ever done against ourselves and society, as well as X in solving for the unknown. X also is a mathematical equation of unknown. So our government has no answer, has no answer for violence, disinvestment, and dysfunction that has ravaged not only Chicago, but inner cities throughout America. And so Ex-Con for Community and Social Change work to highlight and to be in the front to to those authorities that has violated these communities for decades.
And just for the record, I mean, you were in prison for 21 years for what?
Murder.
Lawyer screwed you, or you did it?
Man, listen, I don't talk, but really all that, that's both. The system don't serve us well, because oftentimes we enter these places from these inner cities with no real representation. So you have a state's attorney who have 10 times the more resources than most people have to fight it. But that neither here or there. I've served my debt to society, and I've over the last 2 to 3 years, we probably as an organization intervened in over 2,000 potential shootings, and I've been able to put over 500 ex-cons to work. So I'm actively, with no government help, because every time I get any resources, J.B. Pritzker's and his cronies take all our allocated funds and give it to another community, because I don't play into the politics of their way. But we stand, Dan, accused, and we stand reformed. Since this is a so-called Christian, Judeo-Christian society, so I'm doing my part.
Okay, fair enough. So what do you make of what we've seen at some of these city council meetings recently, including the last one where the property tax increase was central, and these African-American ladies and gentlemen like Jessica Jackson and others who have been going to city council meetings excoriating Brandon Johnson and members of the city council, which has been really enjoyable to watch. But I just wonder if this is, do you think, evidence of a real revolt happening in black neighborhoods in Chicago against Brandon Johnson, against some of these city council members, against Pritzker and the Democrats who are in charge at the state level, or if it's just sort of a one-off because Brandon Johnson is just so bad?
Well, you know, I coined the term OTJ, one-term Johnson. So, and that is a real sentiment amongst our community. I mean, from pastors and other politicians are stepping away from.
Aldermen are stepping away from him.
Stepping away from. So you got to understand, Jessica, them and us, all of the activists and George Blakemores and all the people that has been on the front line to highlight this migrant issue from the very beginning of the 51 million that was first introduced that would go to migrants, but not the communities most affected by gang, drugs, and violence. The unemployment rate of young men, black men, and boys ages 18 to 24 is ridiculous. And the dropout rate and the level of violence that has plagued our community, the money that was being spent not to only introduce illegals into our communities, but then to add those illegals with the already violent community, impoverished communities. It's like disrespectful to us, because those very schools, I've asked the government of Chicago to give me those schools so I could do real behavior modification of young men and boys who would kill our citizens. Yet those schools was denied to us so that they could be safe spaces for girls, boys to play. And as a college, as a coach, you know how valuable that is for your students to have places to be. And we was denied that. So yes, that is a real sentiment, because the very groups and people that's on the ground, our government is not listening to them. And what I hate the most is that in the prime opportunity to truly turn Chicago purple or turn it red, we have no real outside funding or help to help push the narrative of what Jessica and others are saying. So we are doing this thing by grit and grind and passion to say to the world that Chicago is in play. Black people are tired. We're not a monolithic people, and we're not hook, line, and sinker voting blue no matter who, regardless to who you are and how much you punish us for even having a conservative thought about gang, drugs, violence, disinvestment. And black men in general, as you will continue to see, will continue to build our network. You got to understand, Dan, we are the most incarcerated nation in the world. You have 20 million ex-felons in the United States, and you have 80 million just as involved individuals. That means that there's 80 million people who didn't go to prison like Tyrone Muhammed, but they got probation, parole, or they went through some drug counseling, AA or NA program that allowed them not to go to prison if they completed those. So you got an increasing voting block. That's why we started ex-cons for Trump, because the First Step Act, Clinton 94 crime bill, ushered us into mass incarceration led by Joe Biden. And then Trump come along, signed the First Step Act that released thousands of returning citizens back to their community, so black men could be responsible for their community and the boys and the family members that they violated, right? And so here we are saying Trump does not really highlight that aspect, but a lot of returning citizens owe President Trump a debt of gratitude, and they've been consistent down on the ground, making sure that his word is bond.
Obviously, you were happy with the results of the election.
Oh,
Did you
man.
think it was going to be that?
No.
I mean, 312 electoral votes?
I didn't.
What
He really has a triple mandate. And when I say triple mandate, and I want the conservative, these so-called rhinos and all them to listen. Not only did he get the electoral and the popular vote, he galvanized mass respect and appreciation of black men throughout this country. We are the leaders of our household. Whether we have a house to stay, have a house to live in or not, we come back to these communities that's broken. And ultimately, I think he represents the exact mindset, temperament, and president, the bully pulpit to see to it that we get the necessary resources that we need. And the last thing I would say on that is, Tom Homan, you don't have to worry about the law enforcement. We are your dog, the bounty hunters. We know where the migrants at. We know how to go get them. We have a whole army of men who's willing to put in the work to do that, because we didn't ask for illegals to be in our neighborhood. And then we're more than happy to line up with you, Mr. Homan, to remove them.
Well, you're talking about the Venezuelan gang.
Yeah, TDA.
Yeah, where are they in Chicago?
Hey, everywhere. Everywhere, because they know the culture, they know the language. They are Spanish-speaking people, and some of the similar symbols like crowns and different tattoos, they're able to blend in among our Latin King population of brothers and sisters who've been here, who are already, homegrown. So you can't, if you don't understand the terrain, the territory, and the gang culture, it's very hard to navigate that. So what they come with is language, and they come with money, because our government has given them money and cars and tools to violate the citizens. So how is it okay for us to use tax dollars for us to be violated and terrorized by non-citizens?
Well, because the cars thing, people didn't understand what I was saying.
What?
But there are so many vehicles that are not claimed at the city pound. There's one on the south side. It's massive. And they're giving them cars.
Yeah, well, they're allowing them to buy them. So money, instead of you penalizing the car dealerships for allowing people to come with no proper documentation to buy a vehicle, vehicles didn't act as a weapon at that point. So you gotta have you have to be able to track these things. Furthermore, when you look at the guns and the different weaponry that they're learning, I've already told you, I told them months ago. I told New York Post, I told a lot of them, once they learn the landscape and once they learn the terrain of Chicago, you're in trouble, because they have access to things by the government help that the citizens don't even have.
Describe your relationship with Chicago police, and what, if anything, the Chicago police could be doing, if they had the support, or should be doing, to deal with repeat violent offenders, gangbangers, basically.
I feel kind of sorry for the police because I know Snelling personally. Often they call me to help mediate a lot of the crime, the potential shootings, as well as any time mostly when our children flood downtown Chicago. It's groups like mine that curb the violence, that push these young children, teens back to their home, their communities, so that no violence and no disrespect of each other happen while they're down there. So I know all the commanders from the top to the bottom. I have their numbers on speed dial, but they have no power because like I was listening earlier, I think it was a chief or something.
Yeah.
Right.
They are afraid of losing their jobs, and they aren't really I don't think they're actually sacrificial lambs. They're not sacrificial in that way where they would now see or help a Tom Harmon to identify and get information, because ultimately the Chicago police work for Brandon Johnson.
No, I get it. What about CPS? I mean, so the relationships with CPS and the shot callers there, because police want to do their jobs, they don't have the civilian backing. CPS is an arm of Brandon Johnson. They have no interest in being constructive, it seems to me.
So no, you're absolutely correct. So what you have are those schools are pipelines to prisons. So those young men that would commit those type of crime or would become criminals often emulate and look up to people like myself, who was formerly gangbangers and formerly incarcerated. So instead of them looking at us as subject matter expert to essentially curb the thought processes of young men who would be cons, they'll rather use the system of governance and lock out black men. So we're not even able to go into those schools unless I get like a real great principal that sees the value of the children, saving the children as a priority for her or him, that will actually call me in. So there's been cases where they have put out 16 to 20 young men who they can't deal with. They just let them go because they had guns in the school, knives, or they committed some type of act of violence inside the school. But those same men, one time I asked them to give me all the young men you just put out of prison. I always call it prison. You just put out of these schools. They gave me the young men, and the actual principal said, y'all can't do nothing with them. Pretty much saying like that can't be nothing done with them. 10 minutes later, she come back to the room and said, them can't be the same boys. See, because you have no real voice. You have no real energy and spirit to really save these young men, to be a catalyst for them to have a reformed mind. But when everything is heterophobic in Chicago, especially CTU, where it's full of women, no men, you feminizing our boys, you can't properly talk to the issues of the heart and the issues they're dealing with coming from school, from home to school and from school to home, without passing through drug territory and without passing through violent communities. Then those teachers go to another community, another home in suburbs or wherever they stay or downtown. They don't follow those young men and boys or girls back to the inner city. So we need a wraparound program that allows us to not only capture them in the schools, but capture them from their going home to their homes to see how they even live. I guarantee you the teachers that teach these boys and girls don't even know that they don't have food in the refrigerator. Don't even know they're sleeping on the floor.
All right, Tyrone, let's hold. Can you stay over after the news? We'll continue our conversation. All right, so we'll have more with Tyrone Muhammed. We'll also take your calls, too, if you have questions for Tyrone. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line.
But now
Dan
let's
Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Let's go into the newsroom now. Here is Mike.
Take 29 on AM 560, The Answer. 53 degrees this morning, and Ukraine is reportedly getting White House approval to use long-range U.S. missiles inside of Russia. Multiple sources indicate President Biden is giving Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky the okay. South Dakota Republican Senator Mike Rounds criticizing the timing of that decision.
This is just simply too late in the game. It should have been done a long time ago. But the Biden administration has been slow-walking a lot of the aid that's been authorized in a bipartisan fashion from Congress since the beginning.
Russia has ramped up its defense by deploying thousands of North Korean troops as reinforcements, according to U.S. officials. It comes as Russia continues to ready a large-scale strike on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. House Speaker Mike Johnson says President-elect Trump's cabinet nominations will provide reform that's needed for the agencies. Here's Fox's Bill Malugin.
President-elect Donald Trump and his at Mar-a-Lago once again, where they're still trying to build out this future administration. It has been a quiet day, no major announcements. Already, Trump has made more than 20 selections for his incoming administration. Some spots still left to be filled. Some spots have been controversial so far. Others expected to get bipartisan support. However, Democrats have been highly critical of some of the choices so far. In the meantime, some Republicans and even Trump himself have been toying with the idea of potentially using recess appointments to get around the Senate confirmation process if it comes down to it.
The trial resumes today in the February death of a Georgia nursing student, Laken Riley. Prosecutors said Friday that forensic evidence proves illegal immigrant Jose Ibarra murdered Laken Riley. Authorities in New Orleans are investigating a pair of shootings Sunday that left 2 dead and 10 injured. There was extra police presence at the long-term parade due to a history of violence at them. Both shootings happened near that popular parade route. In other news, we're following this morning. Family, friends, and fellow officers gathered Sunday to honor Officer Enrique Martinez during visitation at services in Oak Lawn. A funeral service will take place later today at St. Rita with a procession following to the Beverly Cemetery. Gun violence across the city of Chicago this weekend has left 12 shot, including 2 fatalities, involving a 65-year-old man killed Sunday in the West Pullman neighborhood. Bears on a 4-game losing streak after a 20-19 loss to Green Bay at Soldier Field. The Rockets rolled over the Bulls in a 143-107 win at the United Center. The news, a service of Balance of Nature fruits and veggies in a capsule. Save 35% off your first preferred order with promo code Chicago. Order online at balanceofnature.com to save 35% as a preferred customer. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Get ready for a musical journey like no other when the Trans-Siberian Orchestra returns to Chicago on December 23rd on their Lost Christmas Tour 2024. AM 560 is giving away tickets. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/Christmas. Don't miss the Trans-Siberian Orchestra at the All-State Arena. Go to 560theanswer.com/Christmas.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving MyPillow with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss and your gain. For the first time ever, you'll get a standard classic MyPillow for wholesale prices, only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, they're going to offer their entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Get queen-size MyPillows for just $18.88. Upgrade to king-size for only $1 more. Get the body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever and receive free shipping on orders over $75. That's right. Get the standard MyPillow for only $14.88. They have never been offered this low before. They're limited quantities at this price, so the limit is going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY to get the standard MyPillow for only $14.88, the lowest price ever.
Ho, ho, ho! Time to check the list.
Hey, Santa, you're looking a little rosier than usual.
Yeah, big guy. Is your blood pressure okay?
Gee, I hope so.
You know, you should drink 120 Life.
Totally. 120 Life is a natural way to help control blood pressure without the side effects of medication.
It's a delicious juice drink and powdered mix with natural ingredients like pomegranates and tart cherries.
It tastes great and is shown to work wonders for blood pressure.
Ho, ho! Best put 120 Life on my list.
Try 120 Life yourself, risk-free, with a 2-week trial pack. Order now. Go to 120life.com and use coupon code CHRISTMAS to save 15% and get free shipping. They're so sure it can noticeably lower your blood pressure in 2 weeks, they'll give you your money back if you're not satisfied. Lower blood pressure is the gift that keeps on giving. Order now to get the Christmas special of 15% savings and free shipping. That's 120life.com. Use coupon code CHRISTMAS at checkout.
Wow. Are you buying or are you selling? As this is being written, silver is up more than 50% in just the past 8 months. And gold is the highest it's ever been. Whether you are just getting into the metals, want to roll your IRA into silver or gold, or want to take some profits off the table, Fox Valley Coins is ready, willing, and able to help. Even though Fox Valley Coins is a national dealer, they're family-owned and in your own backyard. Fox Valley Coins in Naperville almost always has the product you want in stock and pretty much always has the best pricing when you buy or sell. Buying or selling is easy. Bring your items in. We'll establish the price and pay you cash or check on the spot. Don't wait until the end of the year to move your assets around. Did you know that Fox Valley Coins has sold over 3,000 one-ounce silver Donald Trump coins? We have several designs, but they're going fast. Fox Valley Coins on Route 59 in Naperville. Family-owned integrity since 1981.
This hourly segment brought to you by Unleash Your Wealth with Raj Shah and Rick Borick this Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. Learn more at scwealthadvisors.com.
8:37 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of Lowe's. Black Friday is back at Lowe's with up to 50% off select major appliances, plus an extra 10% off on select major appliances like Whirlpool. Selection varies by location. See Lowe's.com. Inbound Kennedy, 1 hour. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike at 1 hour. 390 into the old post office. DuSable Lakeshore Drive, stop and go southbound between Irving Park and Fullerton. Due to an earlier accident, the Jane Addams is all knotted up eastbound between Elmhurst Road to right before Toohey. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Cloudy and mild. Fog burning off this morning, but that leads to rain for the afternoon. High 59. Currently 52. Your next news update is at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We're continuing our conversation with Tyrone Muhammed. He's the founder of Ex-Cons for Community and Social Change. Ex-Cons for Community and Social Change. He's an ex-con himself. We're discussing, and I think he's going to be a candidate for office this in the 2026 cycle. We'll get to that. But talking about the work that his foundation is doing to end the systemic violence in Chicago and Chicagoland, because obviously outside the corporate boundaries of Chicago, in places like the south suburbs, you've got a significant crime and drug problem as well. Tyrone, thanks for sticking with us. We appreciate it. We're also taking your calls. If you have calls for Tyrone, 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. But before we get to calls, Tyrone, what about your political ambitions?
So it comes back, we always complaining about what our elected officials aren't doing. I don't ever believe that if I never desired to run for no office, because I just think that systemically, when you're dealing with the two-party systems, it's very hard for someone who has background, who is a real human being, to ever win if you don't have money and party support. So my goal then is I'm tired of seeing that the resources that come in our community often goes to groups and social service groups that don't effectively fix the damage that is caused by disinvestment in our communities. So I said that, I know that the Senate in Chicago, I can't run. If you've been incarcerated, you can't run for local office. But I can run for the highest positions in the land. I can run for the United States Senator and the presidency of the United States, but can't run for local alderman.
Well,
to me, that's
Chicago,
a problem.
Well, you know how Chicago has the highest of ethical standards.
So,
Chicago.
right, really,
yeah, right.
then that's what that tells me is that you don't want us controlling zoning and licensing. But, they could continue to be the crooks to give it away to their cronies and campaign contribution type things. But with that being said, I'm running for the United States Senate. I guess Dick Durbin is holding that seat, sir. I'm going to need that seat. I think I could better serve the community, the state of Illinois.
And you're going to run. And you're going to run as an independent.
And I can. And I was advised to do that by my good friend. Shall I say? Maybe I shouldn't. One of my good friends said it. All I'm gonna say, he owned Bull Valley Golf Course.
Yeah, I think I know who that is.
Well, I think we know who it is. Yeah. Be quiet.
So
about it. No,
he told me to, he say, listen, I'm gonna support you and I'm gonna be on your committee if you need me to. But he said that because we're not wise enough as conservatives, and they may not nominate you if you ran as a Republican, and because Democrats vote blue no matter who, they may never, even though you're a community person and member, they won't even support you because they caught up in party, and you to represent the best candidacy. I mean, you could be the best candidate. So he said, man, you get independent, you get the new voters, you get our Republicans, you get the conservatives, and you get the Democrats. And not nobody is sitting around talking about, he a Republican, he a Democrat. But I understand the logic, and plus we need to create a third party to kind of buffer.
We need a second party.
A second party.
We don't have a second. We don't have a second party.
We don't
right
even
now.
have a second, huh?
So you've ruled out running as a Republican?
Well, we'll be doing the press conference soon. I'm gonna have to reach out to Dan. I'm gonna need some of this political advice. So, we're about to. I got.
You're not. My advice is going to be run from the state, not for office. Let's take a couple calls. Ron from Sycamore. You're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Oh, hi, Ron.
Hi, Dan and Amy. Hi, Tyrone.
How you doing, sir?
Tyrone, I would love for you to get in touch with me. I have a financial literacy company called Boodle. I've spoken to Dan and Amy about this before. And about 5 years ago, I went to Dunbar Vocational High School, which is the school I graduated from, and I asked if I could do my workshop there. And the assistant principal told me that the students at Dunbar he didn't feel were smart enough to learn what I teach.
Right.
And I told him that I'm a student from Dunbar, and I learned this.
Wow.
So the school system is anti-learning, and it's a sad thing for these black students. So if Tyrone can reach out to me at www.goboodle.com and go to my Contact Us page and send me an email, and I'll get back in touch with you.
All right, Ron.
Can you repeat that?
Well, no, just Ron, just hold on, and we'll get your contact info and give it to Tyrone. And by the way, Ron, I made a donation to Opportunity House in Sycamore on behalf of your daughter because I was so moved by the story of you teaching her how to vote. She voted for the first time this past election, which is great. So I don't have any of your contact information, so I just made it on behalf of Ron from Sycamore. So just check with them on that.
Okay.
All right. Hold on now. We'll get your contact info.
When we'll get your information.
I mean, Tyrone, if you want to address that, the kids at Dunbar are not smart enough to learn financial literacy.
Well, I graduated from Chicago Vocational High School, and I graduated, my major was aviation power plant. So I love breaking down turbine engines and fixing it. But, being in the streets when you 16 years old, you making all this illegal money, and we did it like you talking about $50,000, $60,000 a day. You don't have time to be talking about $80,000 a year.
Exactly, and you don't have to pay taxes.
And don't pay tax. See, nobody teach us economics. What this young man is talking to us about. Even if I even understood economics, when my economics teacher in CVS, and that's a vocational, used to be a vocational school, people that taught the trades, and just like Dunbar and Simeon, those 3 vocational. So he told me then, because I didn't trust people, I didn't know who to trust when I was 16, 17. He said, there's this company. You got all this money. I'm going to do something for you, young man. It's an IPO. It's called Microsoft. If you give me $10,000, I would invest that for you. I ain't know nothing about stock, bond, mutual fund, CD, money market, Roth IRAs, and all. I learned all that stuff in prison. And he said, give me $10,000. I said, no, man, I'm not giving you $10,000. You mess up and run off with my money, and I'm going to put you in the trunk.
Right.
That's how all good relationships begin.
But think about that.
Don't tell me how it ended with Microsoft. I don't want to know.
You didn't do it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you
Hey,
like,
Dan, you might not even know me if
Right,
I would've
exactly.
done it.
Yeah, you'd be.
see,
You'd be living next to the guy who owns Bull Valley.
But yes, sir.
But Ron from Sycamore, he could have helped you and other.
Yeah, but that's the good thing about economics.
It's also,
knowing
that's
economics. Really.
Well, that story too is. I mean, it's a couple of things. It seems to me, but get your reaction. One is it's the often discussed soft bigotry of low expectations,
Yeah.
and then two, it's not so soft either. And two, it's just anything that's an inconvenience, anything that's change. CPS, like many of these school systems, and it's not just Chicago, are set up for the benefit and the convenience of the adults. And anything that would change the way they've always done things, which serves them just fine, they just sort of reject out of hand. It's sort of intellectual laziness and low expectations. Terrible combination.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Mark on the street.
Hey, it's Mark Weiermiller. Good morning to Dan, Amy, and Tyrone. I'm just heading down to the funeral down on St. Rita High School, and they're asking people to line up on Western Avenue. The processional from Blake Lamb Funeral Home is going to be at 9:15, and
Mark, are you there?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's Mark Weiermiller. I'm just heading down to the funeral down at Officer Martinez at St. Rita High School on the south side. And they're asking people to line up on Western Avenue from Blake Lamb Funeral Home in Oak Lawn to honor Officer Martinez. So the funeral is at 10 o'clock this morning, and there are going to be thousands of people there.
All right. Thanks for the call, Mark. Appreciate that. I also got a text that the Martinez family, asked to get a Trump autographed hat that they want to put in the casket. And they received it yesterday.
Wow. Oh, I'm gonna cry. That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Mark in Oak Lawn.
Hey Dan, hi Amy. How you doing, Tyrone?
How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing good. Question for you. You look at young people, and the problem with it's really the schools and everything. But the root really comes at the family. The heart of the problem is the family. And I noticed, like, in the NBA, they have these programs where they teach young men, stay away from, getting anybody pregnant, and they really try to educate them. And but from your viewpoint, Tyrone, and you sound like a really good guy, you're trying to help people and helping families. Do you ever get involved, is there anything that the schools could do? I know that the teachers union and all that, they don't want any part of that, but is there any way to educate young men about waiting abstinence, waiting till you get married, trying not to be impregnating anybody? And I think that's the root of the problem is the family in Chicago. What do you think?
So
thanks, Mark.
Thank you for your question, sir. I think that the easy answer is to blame the family. What I mean by that is that look at the mass incarceration rate. They look like men like me. So when you talk about the unemployment rate of 18 to 24 years old in Chicago, it's probably over 60%. So now you have households that's void of men because of the conditions of the community, not necessarily because they actually want to. Wolves got to eat. Fox got to find food. It's like you can't continue to have mass disinvestment in these communities and expect the families to be together. Furthermore, you talking about a a subsidized housing issue where you say in Chicago and mostly Democratic-led cities, where you cannot have a man in the house while taking in government that's not your husband, but that's the baby's father that's taking in government assistance, or you got to get put out. So it's too much government in our households, and it's too much government that has helped violate our families. So go ahead.
On the disinvestment piece, I think you were just getting to it because this is a word that's thrown around, and you mentioned it earlier too. It's not that there's not spend, but the spend is to fund bureaucracies that are in the business of dependency. It's not sort of to access entrepreneurial capital or to underwrite something that is otherwise proving up in terms of the results, whether it's a nonprofit or perhaps in certain circumstances, though I'm not a huge fan, private enterprise. I mean, it's all to fund these bureaucracies that provide transfer payments and take their slice of the pie in so doing, so everybody has a job. And it just funnels. The other thing it does, and we've talked about this before too, Bob Woodson has, the Woodson, it funnels a unbelievable percentage, like almost 60% of black college graduates, it funnels them into government rather than private enterprise, where they can be force multipliers in terms of creation of economic activity, jobs, and wealth.
And these social programs also act as a form of campaign contribution.
Absolutely.
So you got to tell the truth on all levels. So groups like Tyrone Muhammed, who can actually, there's no at-risk young man that I can touch or intervene with that won't be corrected. Now, I'm going to say it once again. You want to hear it again? There's no young man or boy that's irredeemable. And there's no young man or boy at-risk youth that we can't transform and change his mindset and behavior. But because of my views and conservative values, I am not afforded the revenue or opportunities, nor has there been a big donor that came along and said, okay, we're going to use you all as a model. Well, instead, the elected officials work against us to make us fail, even though, lastly, to that gentleman's point, you cannot expect parents that haven't learned how to parent to be parents. Parents need to be taught how to be parents. So there's a lot of disjointed stuff going on and dysfunction in our communities that we make the scapegoat become the parents. Parents don't often solve the problem, Mike.
Michael and Crown Point.
How you doing, Tyrone?
How you doing?
I was calling in, I feel like your heart is in the right place. I feel like you're overstating the role of the government as far as, I would say local government, city of Chicago, on how they're affecting people's daily lives. Like, say, for example, the last caller talked about family. And I really do think it is about family. For an example, my mom, we grew up very poor, single mother. She told me, you do this, there's consequences. If you steal, this is what happens to you. I will never stand by you in court, but I'll stand by you, in everyday life. So I'm sorry I'm a little nervous, but what I'm trying to get down to is I feel like it comes down to the family unit and it comes down to mental health. And no one from a government bureaucracy is going to come and save you, no matter who they are, Democrat, Republican, Independent. They're not going to come and save you. So it starts with the family, and it starts with mental health.
Thanks for the call, Michael. Go ahead, Tyrone.
Yeah, so if you heard me from the beginning, you'll see our motto for ECCSC is going to take us to save us. Also, when you think about family, I'm not thinking about it from a perspective of that what is it? Is it called the traditional family?
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the police have the blue. They talk about them being families all the time. And even I heard Holman talk about my gang bigger than your gang. See, we make statements and we make language, right? And we often don't understand that their language says a lot about how we think. So those brothers and sisters, the little gang bangers, the sect, the cliques, the crews, they families too. They families to each other, whether we like it or not, whether you talking Irish, Italian, or Jewish brothers who are the original gang bangers. They are the original thugs. We inherited something. We just haven't learned how to do what the gentleman said and what Dan talked about is transform our what you call underground economies, because we didn't create prohibition. The underground economies into constructions, to unions, to all of these things that everybody else has done. Even slavery is enriched certain people that now is no longer slavery. They then turn it to other things. So we got to be understanding that economics is a serious responsibility on the government, but it's also I own multiple companies, and I put many people to work. So I don't see the government ever coming to bail me out. And our ex-felons are the only class and caste that's perpetually discriminated against by everybody, from the housing to economics to education to healthcare. Every aspect of social interaction and lifestyle, ex-felons are discriminated, and we have a lot of them languishing in these communities of disinvestment, poverty.
We're going to have to leave it there. Tyrone Muhammed, he's the founder of Ex-Cons for Community and Social Change. ECCSC.org is the website. And pay attention, we will too, because apparently he is on the cusp of launching an independent candidacy for the U.S. Senate seat up in 2026. Tyrone, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Good conversation.
Thank Dan and Amy for having me. Hope to see y'all again soon.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
If you own or run a business and you listen to AM 560, you might not realize that the conservative programming that you enjoy is supported by advertisers. Our loyal listeners love to do business with the advertisers they hear every day on AM 560. Now, it probably won't surprise you that there are some businesses who avoid advertising with us because